You wake up in the morning, you move a little slower now, but you've got your routine. You make your coffee, take your pills, and peel a banana. Maybe two. You feel good about it. After all, it's fruit. It's natural. And everyone says fruit is healthy, right? That's exactly what my father believed. Every single day for more than 20 years, he started his morning with bananas. He was proud of that habit. Bananas are full of potassium, he used to say. Good for the heart, good for the muscles. And I believed him. We all did. But then, something started to shift. At first, it was subtle. He got tired faster, sat down more often, said things like, "The stairs feel heavier today," or "My legs just don't want to move." We blamed it on aging, because that's what people do. When the body begins to slow down, we call it normal, natural, inevitable. Until the day he fell, he was just walking across the room. No obstacles, no rush, and suddenly he dropped a glass of water and hit the floor. No dizziness, no warning. His legs simply stopped holding him up. I'll never forget the look in his eyes. It wasn't pain, it was fear, confusion, shame. That moment changed everything. We rushed to the doctor. Blood pressure? Normal. Heart? Strong. Blood sugar? Fantastic for his age, they said. But his legs didn't agree. His balance didn't agree. His body was failing and no one could explain why. We started tracking everything. His sleep, his mobility, even his food. And then we noticed something strange. He started every day with the same routine. Bananas. 2 of them, sometimes 3. Ripe, sweet, soft. He thought he was being healthy. But for someone in his 70s, that much fructose was poison-dressed as fruit. Because here's what no one tells you. As you age, your body doesn't process sugar the same way. Even sugar from fruit, especially when that fruit is soft, ripe, and loaded with natural glucose and fructose. Your insulin response weakens. Your blood absorbs it too fast, and slowly, silently, inflammation begins to spread through your body. And where does it hit hardest? Your nerves. Your legs, your balance. It doesn't show up in standard blood tests. It doesn't show up on scans. But your body feels it. And if you're not listening, the damage builds. Day by day, bite by bite. The banana, the very thing he thought was protecting him, was stealing his strength, quietly, without warning. Until one day it took his legs from him. That's why I'm telling you this now. Because maybe you feel it too. Maybe your legs feel heavier. Maybe you've stumbled lately. Maybe you've told yourself it's just getting older. But what if it's not? What if the real reason is sitting on your breakfast table right now? Sometimes the things that look healthiest are the ones breaking you down the most. It didn't happen all at once. That's what made it harder to see. At first, it was little things. My father would grip the handrail a bit tighter when going up the stairs. He'd take more time to get out of bed, pause for a moment before standing. He told us it was just tiredness, that he hadn't slept well. But I could tell something deeper was shifting. Something he didn't want to admit. His legs weren't just tired, they were getting weaker, slowly, quietly. Still, every morning, the same routine. Coffee, yogurt, 2 bananas. Sometimes with granola, sometimes not, but always the bananas. "It's good for me," he'd say. "It keeps me regular. Natural sugar is better than the processed stuff." And he was right. It was natural. But that didn't make it safe. Not for someone in his 70s. Not for someone whose body had changed, even if he hadn't realized it yet. The decline was subtle, but relentless. He stopped going on long walks, then short ones. He didn't want to go outside as much. Said the pavement felt uneven, that the ground felt funny. He began using a cane, just in case, he said, but within weeks, he couldn't move around the house without it. What started as prevention became dependence, and no one had answers. The doctors looked at the same charts, the same blood pressure numbers, the same blood work. Everything looked good, but everything felt wrong. One day I sat down with him and asked, "What are you eating lately?" And he smiled. Same. As always. Good stuff. Healthy stuff. He believed that, because no one had ever told him otherwise. No one had said that a healthy food for a young man might be harmful for an older one. But the truth is, once we looked closely at his diet, it was clear. The bananas were the only constant. Day after day, year after year, always in the morning, always on an empty stomach. And that's when I started reading, researching, talking to nutritionists who actually work with older adults. And the science was clear. The aging body is not designed to handle high glycemic loads, even from fruit, the same way it once did. Bananas, especially when ripe, are loaded with sugar. Natural sugar, yes, but sugar all the same. And when that sugar floods an older body without any fat or protein to slow it down, it spikes insulin, promotes inflammation, and puts stress on the nervous system. The muscles weaken, The joints become unstable. The nerves fire less reliably. It starts with fatigue, then comes instability, then the fear of falling, and finally, the fall itself. And all the while, the fruit sits there on your plate, looking harmless. But for my father, those bananas were a quiet destroyer, and I began to wonder how many other people are doing the same thing, eating something they were told was good for them, while their body quietly breaks down beneath them. If you're over 60 and you're waking up feeling weaker than yesterday, it might not be just age. It might be your breakfast. The body speaks long before it fails. It whispers first, through heaviness in your legs, through slight tremors in your knees, through the way you reach for the wall without thinking when getting up. But we don't listen. We dismiss it. We call it just getting older. That's exactly what my father did. And that's what almost cost him everything. He started walking slower, not because he wanted to, but because his body made him. He took more time getting out of chairs. He stopped bending down to tie his shoes, not because it was painful, but because getting back up became a challenge. Small things, daily things, but they added up. I remember the moment it became undeniable. He was trying to walk from the living room to the kitchen, just a short distance, a few steps, and halfway there, he froze. His legs wouldn't move. He wasn't dizzy. He wasn't weak in spirit. His muscles just disconnected. He stood there, gripping a chair, silent, embarrassed, then slowly shuffled back to the couch. He didn't speak much after that. It wasn't about the fall anymore. It was about the fear of falling. That fear creeps into everything. It makes you avoid stairs, makes you avoid walks, makes you avoid life, and yet the doctors still said the same thing. Your tests look great for your age, but how can you trust the tests when your legs won't obey? When your strength is fading and nobody can tell you why? That's when I started asking different questions. Questions most people never ask. What exactly is happening inside his body? What happens when you feed it something that spikes inflammation every single morning? What does that do to the nerves, the blood vessels, the muscles? And the answer was clearer than any lab result. When you're over 60, your body becomes far more sensitive to sugar, even natural sugar, especially when it's eaten alone without protein or fat to balance it. That sugar rush doesn't energize you. It inflames you, slowly, daily, until one day your body can't keep up. And where does that inflammation go first? The peripheral nerves, the long, thin lines of communication between your brain and your limbs. When those nerves get inflamed, signals become weaker, delayed, distorted. That's why the foot drags. That's why the knees buckle. That's why you feel off, like your body isn't reacting the way it used to. But here's the terrifying part. This damage doesn't show up on regular blood tests. It doesn't scream. It doesn't even knock. It just sneaks in, one bite at a time. And for my father, it started with bananas, not soda, not candy, not cake, bananas. No one warned us. No doctor ever said, maybe that fruit isn't working for you anymore. Instead, they smiled and said, keep doing what you're doing. But what he was doing was quietly destroying his stability, his independence, his confidence. And now, I wonder how many others are walking that same path, waking up each morning, eating what they've always been told is healthy, and unknowingly feeding the very thing that's making them weak. Because the truth is brutal. Sometimes the body screams in silence, and unless you choose to listen, you won't hear it until it's too late. The scariest part isn't what you know is bad, it's what you believe is good. We're told to fear fast food, sugar packets, processed snacks, and yes, those are dangerous. But the real threat, the one that sneaks up on you after 60, it's the so-called healthy foods, the ones no one questions, the ones you eat proudly, thinking they're saving your life, when in fact, they're quietly stealing it. That banana my father ate every morning, that wasn't just fruit, it was sugar, pure concentrated sugar, wrapped in a yellow peel. And because it was natural, because it came from a tree and not a factory, he trusted it completely. But the body doesn't care where the sugar came from. It only knows how much is coming in, and how fast. And ripe bananas hit your system like a freight train. All that sweetness rushes into your bloodstream in minutes. When you were young, your body could handle that. Your insulin response was strong. Your cells were hungry and active, but after 60, that same banana becomes a bomb. Silent, consistent, invisible. And this is where most people get it wrong. They assume that if something is natural, it can't hurt you. But poison can be natural. Inflammation is natural. So is decay. And for someone in their 70s or 80s, that flood of natural sugar doesn't energize, it inflames, it triggers chain reactions deep in the body. Nerves misfire, blood vessels tighten, and the legs, your foundation, begin to fail. We, Learned this the hard way, not through textbooks, through trial, through watching my father lose his mobility, not to disease, but to a fruit bowl. And he's not alone. Millions of seniors are doing the same thing right now, eating bananas, drinking orange juice, having toast with jam, all before 9 a.m., all while thinking they're starting their day healthy, and all while unknowingly weakening the very muscles and nerves they depend on to stay upright, because the aging body doesn't play by the same rules. What was once fuel now becomes friction. What once built you up can now break you down, slowly, quietly, without warning. We stopped giving my father bananas. People thought we were being extreme. They laughed. "It's just a banana," they said. But what they didn't see was the difference it made. Within days, his energy began to return. The swelling in his legs reduced. He stood more easily. He moved more confidently. The change wasn't in his medication. It was in his breakfast. And that's what I want you to hear. It's not about fear. It's about awareness, about understanding that your body at this stage of life needs different fuel. It needs stability. It needs calm, steady energy, not spikes, not crashes, not silent sugar bombs hidden in plain sight. So, if you're still eating like you did at 30, thinking it's helping you stay young, stop. Your body has changed. Now your food must change too, because sometimes the most dangerous thing on your plate is the one you never thought to question. The change didn't happen overnight. That would have been too easy, but it started quietly within the first few days after we removed the bananas from my father's breakfast. At first, it was just a sense of lightness. He said his legs felt less full. The swelling in his ankles, something we had come to accept as normal, began to ease. His steps got more stable. He didn't need to sit down as quickly after standing, and for the first time in months, he looked like he trusted his own body again. We replaced the bananas with something simple. No expensive supplements, no exotic ingredients, just fat and protein, the kind that doesn't spike his blood sugar or inflame his nerves. Scrambled eggs, cooked in olive oil, a few slices of avocado, a handful of walnuts, real food, balanced fuel, nothing flashy, just nourishment that respected his age. We also added one more thing, a small glass of water with magnesium first thing in the morning. That was it. No pills, no complex regimens, just the basic minerals his body had been starving for, unknowingly, for years. And then came day 14. I remember it clearly. He stood up from the couch without using the armrest, walked across the room, through the kitchen, to the front door, and opened it. No cane, no hesitation. Just calm, steady movement. He stood at the gate, took a deep breath of morning air, and turned to me with a look I hadn't seen in years. Not excitement, not pride, but relief. He was back, not to his 30s, not to his glory days, but to himself, the man who could move freely, the man who could trust his legs again. You see, we didn't give him new legs. We just stopped damaging the ones he had. That's the mistake. Most people they chase solutions, medications, shortcuts, but sometimes the answer isn't adding something. It's removing what's silently hurting you. And for my father, the banana was that thing. Not because it's evil, not because no one should eat it, but because his body, at his age, simply couldn't handle it anymore. And yours might not be able to either. Maybe you're waking up every day feeling foggy, heavy, like your body isn't responding the way it used to. Maybe you've tried walking more, stretching, drinking more water, but nothing seems to work. Have you looked at your breakfast? Because that's where it started for us. That was the spark, the quiet habit that turned into a trap. But it was also the first thing we changed. And once we did, everything else followed. My father didn't become an athlete. He didn't run marathons, but he got his confidence back, his rhythm, his dignity, and in the eyes of a man who had almost given up, that was more powerful than any miracle. And the best part? It was all within reach. Not in a pharmacy, not in a hospital, but right there on the plate. You turn on the TV, and the message is always the same. Eat more fruit, drink your juice, stay natural. It's good for your heart, good for digestion, good for aging. You see a smiling older couple riding bikes, laughing, eating bananas under a blue sky. You believe it because that's what we've all been taught, that fruit is sacred, untouchable, always beneficial, but no one tells you what happens when you're 60, 70, 80, and your body starts to betray the old rules. No one tells you that even natural sugar becomes a silent threat, that a banana, once fuel, now inflames, that orange juice, once refreshing, now stiffens your joints. That the fruit salad in the morning might be the reason you feel dizzy, sluggish, unstable. We trusted the label natural too much. We believed that if it came from the earth, it could only help. But the truth is, your body doesn't care about marketing. It only reacts to chemistry. And the older your body gets, the less tolerant it becomes to sudden sugar spikes, even the so-called good ones. That's what no one warns you about. They don't tell you that insulin resistance increases with age, meaning your body has a harder time moving sugar from your blood into your cells. That sugar lingers longer, causes more inflammation, damages your nerves. And over time, that damage shows up in your balance, your reflexes, your legs. That's why you feel heavy in the morning. That's why your knees ache more than they used to. That's why you stumble when nothing is in your way. It's not because you're clumsy. It's not because you're weak. And no, it's not just aging. It's what you're feeding the problem without realizing it. And here's the terrifying part. You won't see it coming. You won't notice until the damage is done. Because this kind of harm is slow, quiet, it builds in silence, through everyday choices you've made 1,000 times. That's why this message matters, because millions of people over 60 are making the same mistake right now, waking up, grabbing a banana, pouring orange juice, thinking it's healthy, and then wondering why their body keeps breaking down. No one's warning them. No one's telling the truth, not because it isn't known, but because it isn't convenient, because it's easier to blame your age than your habits. It's easier to sell a miracle pill than ask you to question your plate. But I'm here to tell you, you still have a choice. You can still change course. You can still listen to the signals your body is trying to send, because what's happening to your legs, to your nerves, to your strength, it's not inevitable, and it's not irreversible. It starts with what you stop putting in your body. So ask yourself right now, what did you eat this morning? And is it building your future or silently breaking it? You don't need a hospital visit to make a change. You don't need a diagnosis. You don't even need another fall. What you need is this moment, right now, to realize that your future is still in your hands, no matter your age, no matter how long you've been living this way. My father was losing himself, one step at a time, not because he was sick, not because of genetics, but because of a single habit he trusted, a routine that felt right until it broke him. But the moment we questioned it, the moment we stopped treating everything natural as harmless, was the moment he started coming back. He didn't need to be young again. He just wanted to move freely, walk without fear, get out of bed without wondering if his legs would cooperate. And the change wasn't dramatic. It was real. It was slow, quiet, powerful. And that same shift is waiting for you. You might not feel like it right now. You might feel too tired, too old, too far gone. But let me tell you, you are not finished. You are not broken. You are not beyond repair. You just need to stop feeding the fire. Stop giving your body the very thing that's holding it back. Stop believing that suffering is normal just because it's common. Because common doesn't mean inevitable. You still have time to reclaim strength, to rebuild energy, to regain confidence, and most importantly, to protect your independence, the ability to walk, to think clearly, to enjoy your family without fear of falling, without holding back. This isn't about cutting one fruit. It's about waking up, about becoming aware of what's really happening inside you, about realizing that small changes in what you eat, especially in the morning, can transform how you move, how you feel, how you live. And if you have children, grandchildren, people who love you, do this for them too, because they don't want to see you weaken. They don't want to carry you. They want to walk beside you. They want you there, strong, present, alive. So today, choose differently. Look at your plate not with routine, but with wisdom. Ask what's nourishing you and what's quietly draining you, because the fight for your strength doesn't begin at the gym or in a bottle of pills. It begins with awareness. It begins at the breakfast table, and it begins with you.